episode. Today, we have an incredibly special guest. But first, make sure to like and subscribe to the Field of 68 Media Network, where you can get content such as this. And obviously, it's the NCAA tournament time, so you're definitely not going to want to miss it. And also, don't forget to download the Locker Room app, where we're going to have pre-post game commentary from the same hosts who are presenting these podcasts from the Field of 68 Media Network. So again, don't forget to follow, like, subscribe to the Field of 68 Media Network, and don't forget to download the Locker Room app for more content pre and post game. Today, we have our 15th guest on the Welcome to the J podcast. He was one of the best three-point shooters in high school, finishing runner-up in the high school three-point championship as a senior. As a high schooler, he was a career 90% free throw shooter and a career 46% three-point shooter. He had a career high 31 points while draining 8 threes versus DePaul his junior year. He averaged 10.2 points a game and led the team with 44 steals that season as well. He's made 171 career three-pointers as a Blue Jay. He is the pride of BP, aka Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Isaiah Zigmas Zierden is in the building. Welcome to the J, bro.
Pride of BP.
The pride of Brooklyn Park. You already know what it is.
Shit,
Been a red knight from the start. You already know. What's up, Z?
What's going on?
How you living, man? You doing good?
Chilling, another day.
Another day, another dollar. Let's get it. So obviously the boys made it to the tournament, had a rough final game in the Big East tournament, though. I think we were all hopeful, playing against a number 8 seed. That's about as good of a chance as that you have as a 2 seed to win it all. Right. I know you had the chance to kind of watch that game. What were your thoughts? What did you come out of that game thinking about, the boys, where they're at right now and their chances going into the NCAA tournament?
I honestly would have lost a lot of money on that game, because after watching the UConn game, I was like, all right, that was their bad game. They didn't play well at all. It wasn't like they played great defensively. UConn had a bad game too, and obviously the Jays didn't shoot it well. So I would have put my house on them winning against Georgetown as a bounce back game. But it doesn't always happen that way. We've definitely been through it, where you go in a shooting slump and you just nothing you can do offensively. So I was surprised, but again, you tip your cap to Georgetown. They played well, and sometimes it's just how the ball bounces. You don't play well, and they do.
It was very reminiscent to me of my senior year when we lost to Providence, who I believe was a 5 seed at the time, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of those games you're just like, man, like we have a really good shot. It's not Villanova, at that time, like Providence was just a middle of the pack Big East team, but they got hot at the right time. Obviously, the outcome of those 2 games, our game was a little bit closer than what we saw on Saturday. But did you kind of have that kind of mindset too once you saw the game getting away from the boys?
It was, honestly, that was the first thing I thought of, because even that Providence game, I had just hurt my knee my freshman year, so I couldn't play anyway. So just watching and not being able to do anything definitely brought me back to that year. So. But yeah, just like you said, the Providence game they wanted to slow the tempo down, and they did it differently than Georgetown. Obviously, Georgetown was feeling good about themselves, and they hit some shots that I don't think they've hit all year.
Right.
A couple times they were laughing about the shots they were hitting, because it's like, I haven't seen them hit any of those. But it was definitely tough, and brought back the Providence memories of that your senior year.
Let's talk about this upcoming matchup in the first round, the dreaded, vaunted 5-12 matchup. We know that every single year there's an upset between one of those 4 games. Hopefully it won't happen to the boys, but just a slight preview of who they're going to be playing: a UC Santa Barbara team with leading scorers being Ja'Cory McLaughlin at 15.6 points a game, Amadou Sow at 13 points a game, and Ajari Sani at 11.5 points a game. And then they have 5 other players averaging between 4 and 10 points. So a very respected potent offense. What do you kind of see as a preview, or I should say, what is your opinion of what the Jays should do in order to come out with a victory against a team that, can go up and down, can obviously score. They average 75 points a game as a team. So what do you think the Jays must do to, obviously defend and play well and get a victory in that opening round game?
Well, just for any of the players and fans listening, obviously there's a website, Real Time RPI, that actually predicts UC Santa Barbara to beat us. So you can use that as bulletin board material. But honestly, I think this matchup is what you want. Any game in the tournament is going to be tough no matter what. You can be a 1 and playing a 16. It can happen any day where an upset can happen. But I think that the way that UC Santa Barbara has been playing their play styles, going up and down, trying to score a bunch of points, I think that helps Creighton. It's a matchup for them where they can continue to play our style of basketball, get up and down, don't have to grind out the shot clock defensively. You're going to be able to get, offensive opportunities and transition. So I think it'll be a good game. I think the Jays are going to pull it off. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think it'll be a Creighton win.
Believe me, brother, like as long as I've been doing this podcast, I realize that my biases are just showing more and more week to week.
Like I kind of think I'm like, well, I want the Creighton's gonna win in my mind. So it's like,
yeah. One of the keys that I have that I feel is going to be very important is obviously the start to the game. Sometimes the Jays come out, a little lackadaisical, a little bit of a slow start, where the ball movement is not as crisp as it should be. And then before like, again, the latest example is that Georgetown game. They go on a slump. The other team goes on a massive run, and the boys really don't have a good answer for it. So that's one of my keys to the game. And another one is to get Mitch going early, because I know how crucial he is with how much he can stretch the floor for the Jays, open up driving lanes for everybody else. Do you agree with those keys to the game? What are some of the things that you think the Jays must do?
Well, of course, I think obviously being a shooter, you have to get the shooter going. You open up the floor, it makes more room for not only Marcus, but you got the pick and roll. They can't help off the corner. They can't help off the weak side. It's going to make it tougher for them. But again, during the course of the game, they're going to mess up at some point. And if you get Mitch going early, he's able to run sets for him, and he'll be able to come, even if it's halfway through the second half and he hasn't shot in 8 minutes, he'll be able to come off that set and hit a 3 if you get him going early. But yeah, I agree with you. I think you get him going early and a good start. I think the first 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 of the second half will determine the whole game.
Yeah, that first media timeout, man, is a good barometer of how things are going to go. If you get off to a good start, and let's just say you have like a 9-5 lead, like even if it's just a 4-point lead, it doesn't seem tremendous. But just to know that you have that good momentum going into that first media timeout is everything. And like you said, like a guy like Mitch, who doesn't need a lot of shots necessarily to get hot, he just needs to see it go in once. Can you imagine if he makes his first 2 shots, the defense is in for a long night after that?
Right.
The first question that we have from Twitter from Jordan LC Golf, he's asking, what is the key to winning a tournament game, and how do you think Creighton can put that plan into effect? We already kind of touched on it, but do you have anything more to add to that?
Well, I mean, so I was on the team and I hurt my knee your senior year. So I've never been a part of a tournament win, or I've never played. I've been a part of the team, but I just think it's literally, you have to take it 4 minutes at a time. And it sounds just you hear that all the time, and it's like, all right, that's stupid, but it's a tournament game and everyone wants to be able to keep their season going. They want to be able to keep dancing, be in the Sweet 16, but because an upset can happen in any matchup. So just being locked in and focus on the next 4 minutes, the next 4 minutes, it's 0-0 coming out of the media timeout. Let's win these 4 minutes. So I think that way, if you just stay focused on the little things, little increments of the game, the big picture will take care of itself.
Another thing I wanted to touch on is I hope that, obviously the last game was a tough one, obviously to watch. I would imagine for the boys, a tough one to play in as well. But they cannot afford to lose their confidence right now. The guys who are shooters shoot, rebounders rebound, passes pass. You know how it goes. But like they really need to show it, especially like you said, like the first 4 minutes and then the following 4 minutes after that, that their
Right.
confidence is up, that they're playing their style of basketball. And just,
Right.
at any point you can't just walk down or walk around with your head down because it's one and done. You lose, you go home, you have no second chances.
Right. And that's why I think this matchup with Santa Barbara and also, not having to wait terribly long. It's only,
Mhm.
5, 6 days where you have to wait instead of, maybe 10 days to 14 with COVID. You never know. But I think
Mhm.
this matchup with a decently short time period between a bad loss and playing your next one, I think it'll be good.
I'm glad that you brought up COVID, and obviously this is an irregular season. It's been weird just all around, not only in society, but obviously like all sports have been affected by it. How do you
Right.
think this particular setting, all the games being played in Indiana in different venues, how do you think that is going to affect not only our boys but the NCAA tournament as a whole?
Well, I think it'll be very different for the NCAA tournament. I mean, Duke being out.
Mhm.
We talked
Kentucky
about,
out.
yeah, Kansas. I guess they get to play if they test negative. But I mean, just
Mhm.
the amount of teams that have had games canceled due to COVID and um, weird situations with schedules and whatnot. And it'll be different. I think for Creighton, I mean, we play Butler, so we're used to the area. We've made the flight before. We've had different situations, different hotels. So I think
Mhm.
I think for us it'll be okay. But for the tournament itself, I think it'll be much different than usual.
It's kind of crazy as I look down the list of teams. Usually at like the 11, 12, 13 seeds, you see some lower to mid-major schools like
Right.
I don't know, Davidson type, College of Charleston
Right.
type of school that's there. You look at the bracket this year and it's like Syracuse. It's like,
Yeah.
so at any given point, I don't really like think that that would be too much of an upset if, an 11 beats or whatever, what is it,
It won't
11?
be the typical 11-5 upset or 12-5 upset that we see.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so crazy this year. Yeah. What other teams intrigue you in this tournament? Obviously, like as fans of basketball, we love the boys, but like I know you're going to be watching all day. I'm going to be trying to watch as much as I can with the time
Right.
difference that I have going on here. I'll kind of say mine. Just kind of a little shout out to the men who helped me get to where I'm at today. Coach DeVries is actually playing in a playing game with Drake. Congrats to Coach DeVries for making the tournament. Coach Lutz, your favorite guy, is a fifth seed with,
My
or a
God.
four seed, I should say, at Purdue. And
Yeah.
then we have the former head coach, Coach Altman, with Oregon. They're a seventh seed as well. So those are the kind of teams that I'm going to be looking out for, just because I know those guys. I've had conversations with those guys, and obviously relationships with those guys. What kind of teams intrigue you, and give me some of the reasons why?
I mean, obviously the former coaches that we've had, you always root
Mhm.
for them and you hope that they win their matchups. But like the Oregon State with Cunningham, I really want to see what he can do in the
Oklahoma
tournament.
State, you mean?
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
apologize.
yeah, yeah. It's
Oregon
so yeah.
Black.
Oregon State, OSU,
I
Oklahoma
don't
State, OSU.
I
They're
don't
both
that
orange,
should that
black,
should
and
tell you
white.
how much I
Yeah,
know, but I just want to see what he can do in the tournament and see what kind of a run he
yeah.
can help them make. And then
Mhm.
I don't know, not really. I'm interested in general just to see how the tournament goes
Mhm.
and if there's actually going to be any cancellations of games due to the COVID that we talked about. So I'm just more interested to see how it all plays out.
From what I've been hearing, the players and the coaches are all pretty much isolated in their rooms. Are not allowed to come out unless it's practice, shoot around, or game time. So, uh, if they are able to maintain, that setting of a bubble, then everything should be a go. And hopefully, no one, comes in contact with anybody that has COVID and it shuts down the whole thing. But from what I'm hearing, it's a pretty secure thing that they're trying to do. It's just a matter of obviously everyone adhering to those rules and trying to stay as safe as possible. Another team or a player that I should say that I'm very intrigued in is also in that West region from the number one overall seed, Jalen Suggs from Gonzaga. I had a chance to kind of watch a couple of Gonzaga games this year just because of my intrigue, and he's the real deal, man. I hope the boys get a chance to match up with them. I'd love to see a Zegarowski Suggs matchup in Sweet 16, I believe it would be.
Right. No, I agree.
Mhm.
I got to see him his senior year in high school because I was back home, and obviously things changed from senior year of high school to being in college. So I had a different opinion last year, but I respect the work and the effort that he's put in and the mentality that he's had. But I definitely think it'd be an interesting matchup. I don't think that they'd roll like they think they would over us, just because the whole year. I mean, every year they always just play teams out west.
Right.
Normally their non-conference isn't much. So
Yeah. This year was a little different. They had a chance to play Kansas, and I believe they played Iowa as well, who's a 2 seed. But no, I agree with you. I mean, they are the cream of the crop in the West Coast Conference, so they always go into the tournament with a whole lot of confidence because usually they win the regular season and the West Coast Conference tournament as well. Yeah. Last question before we move on to your playing career. What number 1 seed do you think is the least likely to make a Final Four run? Putting you on the spot here.
Right. I think. I think the least likely. I think it has to be Michigan for me, and I trying to look at their bracket.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with Michigan. I think Florida. If Florida State gets there, I think Florida State would beat them. I think it'd be a good game, but I think Florida State's athleticism and tempo would outdo them. I think that if the Jays face Gonzaga,
because that's mine. Mine is Gonzaga.
But yeah, I mean that's just how it is as an alum. You're always going to say that. But if I had to choose one team, then I think it'd be Michigan that win. I think they'd be the first out.
I remember the first time I started playing as a pro, the first time the boys made it to the tournament. After that, I had them winning the whole thing in my ESPN bracket. And I put it up on Twitter and I said, I'm definitely not biased by this pick at all. And people gave me hell for it.
That's how I made 2 brackets. One that one that was for me because it was just Jays all the way, and then the other one.
Right. One more Twitter question before we get out of this NCAA tournament talk. From Billy BJ Noisy Jaybird on Twitter, asking, how do you see us matching up with some of the teams in our quadrant? Obviously, it's Gonzaga we spoke about a little bit, Santa Barbara we spoke about, but that second round matchup would be against Virginia. Which obviously we know is known for their defense. They play a tough pack line defense that Coach Mack has also integrated into his defensive package from time to time, depending on the team that he has. So, is that Milo?
Milo, hey. Listen,
hey. Let's see if Milo can make an appearance real quick.
You want an appearance? Milo.
Yeah, just a quick one.
Come here.
So we know exactly who's barking in the background.
Come here. They want an appearance. The people want an appearance.
There he is. Got to give the people what they want, Milo.
Give the people. Look at right here. Yeah. What?
Hey, Milo, welcome to the J, brother. All right.
He's not impressed.
Hey. So another Twitter question about the NCAA tournament from Billy BJ Noisy Jaybird on Twitter. He's asking, or she's asking, they don't have a profile picture, so he or she is asking, how do you see us matching up with the teams in our quadrant? We talked about Santa Barbara, we talked about Gonzaga, but that next matchup for the Jays would be against Virginia. We know about their defense, and the pack line defense has been so instrumental in their success. Coach Mack has actually used that
Right.
same kind of defense, depending on the player personnel that he has. So how do you see a matchup, 5 versus 4 in that second round?
They've always had, over the last, 5, 6 years since we've been there, they've always had that tough defense where they want to slow the game
Mhm.
down, and they've been great at it. But against somebody like us at Creighton and the Jays, I think it's tough. They can do it against some teams that aren't as up tempo mindset offensively, but with how we like to play, somebody that we just talked about, Gonzaga, they played Gonzaga earlier this year and gave up 98 points, which they never
Mhm.
do. So I think it's a little different year for them, and I think just having most of their guys come out of quarantine, I think it'll be interesting to see how much they really want to slow the game down and how they're able to defensively get what they want to get done.
It's such a crazy year because it's like you would never, like, as you're filling out your brackets and all that stuff, those aren't things that normally come to mind. Like, yeah, you look at injuries and stuff like that, but
Right.
this year due to COVID, like there's so many more question marks. So it's going to be such a fun, it's going to be an exciting tournament. There's going to be a bunch of storylines. The first one right off the bat, Drake versus Wichita State, two former Missouri Valley conference rivals. I already know, if you listen to me and you listen to this podcast, you know that I'm a extreme NCAA tournament conspiracy theorist when it comes to storylines. So I can't wait to see what they're gonna build up as the tournament goes on. But there's a reason why the teams are ranked that way. And we'll wait when you hear the broadcasters speak about something outside of basketball that has nothing to do with the game, and they're gonna try to relate it all back to it. That's when we'll know, like, I could see why they wanted that team as a 6 seed as opposed to maybe a 4
Right.
that they deserved. So
Right.
it's all good. It happens all the time. Let's get into your career, bro. First of all, your high school career. You're always known as a great shooter from the very jump. I already talked about your shooting splits in your beautiful introduction.
Right.
If I do say so myself,
Perfect.
what are some of the things, especially early on when you were a youngster, that you worked on that developed your form, developed your confidence into, your shot? And what are some of the things that you did, especially obviously as a child, that helped you become the shooter that you became?
Um, well, I mean, the first and foremost is having my dad be a coach.
Mhm.
He just worked with me on shooting all the time. He tells me stories of when I'm laying in the crib and he's just sitting there flicking my wrists as a baby. I mean, it's just stuff like that. But I think growing up, it was always the usual ball handling type stuff, which I still
Mhm.
never got great at. But the shooting was every day. You know, I don't think people realize how many shots, aren't taken on video. All the extra work you put in, and me and you did it for the
Mhm.
last couple summers, and just stuff like that people never get to see. But I think the moment that I can really point back to, and it'll be, it's always tough for me to talk about even still, is I was 5 and the Lakers were playing the Timberwolves when my dad was a coach, and it was an
Mhm.
afternoon game. My dad gets there at like 8 a.m. and we're walking down the Target Center hallway, and we hear a voice deep. All the lights are off deep down the hallway. "Oh, KG, you shrunk, KG." Me and my dad are looking like, "Who the hell is this?" And all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's Kobe, and he comes walking out. He's got his whole hand taped up because he wasn't playing, but he was still going to go work out, and he had me rebound for him. And I, just sat there and I just listened because he was talking to me after for like an hour. Um,
Mhm.
and he told me, he said, "You think you work hard?" I'm not going to say anything. I'm just shy as hell anyway, and it's Kobe Bryant, so I'm like just nodding. And he's like, "Okay, well, there's a kid out there out in New York working harder than you right now." And I like didn't know what to say. And he's like, "You still think you work hard?" And I was like, "I don't. You just told me somebody else was working harder, so I don't. What am I supposed to say?" And then he's like, "There's a kid out in LA working harder than him." And I'm like, "Oh shit." So I guess I have to work hard. Like, and he's like, "If you want to be, great at what you do," he goes, "you have to put in that time that no one sees. You have to put in more time." if you think they're putting in more time, you have to put in more time. And so that's when it really like set in, and that's when he became my favorite player. Just that mentality, that Mamba mentality of he's going to kill anyone, no matter what they're doing. And
Right.
that's really when it clicked for me. Like I really have to put in the time.
How cool was that 3-point shootout experience? We've had Ethan Rogge who participated in the NCAA one, so did Marcus Foster. I personally did one in Cyprus and I was playing as a pro there, but like just from your experience as a high school kid, I think at that time you already had an idea of where you were going to go, but like how cool was it to participate in that and just seeing these other, dope shooters around you?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. Even
Mhm.
just being there when we did the early morning walkthrough of how it was going to go, and they had the guys in the dunk contest there, and they're in their flip flops doing windmills and 360s, and it's like, all right, I guess I'm not doing the dunk contest this year, but it was just a neat experience. Different people you get to meet and all that.
Mhm. In flip flops though.
I, don't
There's
ask me.
no way, bro.
I can't even. I don't even think I get the rim anymore. But
Right. Absolutely not. Aside from CU, which obviously you ended up at, what other schools were like interested in you, or maybe that you were super interested in going? What was your recruiting process like?
it was honestly pretty calm. There weren't a whole lot of schools. Manhattan really wanted me to go there, and Wofford I was really interested in, along with obviously Creighton and then Pepperdine. But it was more Wofford and Creighton, just because Wofford was a warmer place. So I was interested in being somewhere warm. But Mac and the play style at Creighton really sold me. The obviously the family that it is really sold
Mhm.
me on and going to Creighton. So it wasn't much of a decision really. It was kind of already made.
And you also had the best host on your visit too.
Oh,
Like, I mean, it happens.
right.
My record as far as bringing in recruits is impeccable, and I'll put it up against anybody's. That's me tooting my own horn and patting my own back for sure. But if Jahenns Manigat is your host, you're coming to that school. I can promise you that.
Well, mine was a different situation, but sure. Yep.
So that first year that you come in, we go to Bahamas, right?
No,
And
that
then
was
after that,
you went there before.
did we go before? Okay.
Right.
So, but you decided with the coaching staff, obviously, to redshirt.
Yep.
What went into that decision? We've had a couple of different, guests on the podcast talk about their redshirt year. I want to get, your opinion of that. What was good for you that year? What was bad for you that year? And ultimately, what went into that decision between you and the coaching staff that, this will be a good idea, Z, if you just sit out this year?
It was obviously everything happens for a reason, but it was actually great because then we ended up moving to the Big East. So um physically I
Right.
needed to be a lot stronger than what I was. But it was more so just, what that I could have an entire year basically to work on getting stronger, my body, my game and everything. It was pretty easy that I knew that I wasn't going to play, obviously with the roster that you guys had. Um, and so just being able to be there, practice every day and work out and try to get better was a big deal. But that year when we played at Nebraska, Josh had that heart issue. And then that's when it was like, okay, Mac said, do you want to come off red shirt? Uh, and we had a long discussion about that, and ultimately ended up not, which was good. But the entire year was a good thing. It just sucked going through it.
Right. It's so crazy that like you committed to a Valley school, you don't play a second in the Valley, you play your full career in the Big East. When that moment happened, when we realized that we were switching conferences, like what was your mindset like? Were you just like, Jesus, like what did I kind of get myself into? Were you excited? Were you and what was your mindset like when you figured out that we were moving conferences?
Yeah, we had heard that the rumor for a while that we could be, but then when it became official, I remember, and I won't forget this. Mac called me into his office in old gym. He goes, "Hey, bud." I'm like, "Coach?" He goes, "So you heard that we're switching to the Big East?" I said, "Yeah, it's pretty cool." And he goes, "You weren't recruited to play in the Big East." So, and I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, am I gone? Is this is the moment? And he goes, "You're gonna have to be ready." And I'm like, "Oh, all right, shit. All right, yeah, no, I'm ready, coach. I'll be." But we just sat there. But I was like, that was the moment I was like, "Wait, am I not gonna be here?" "You're not recruited for the Big East." I was like, "Oh, all right.
Right.
I guess I'm leaving." But no, I remember we had a discussion. I told Mac, I said, "Don't worry, Mac." I said, "I'll be ready." And he said, "Okay." And that was the end of it. And then just continued to work all summer and got ready. It was more excitement than anything.
Bro, I remember your redshirt year when you're on scout team. Obviously, there are days where you're just gonna get it going. And once a shooter like yourself gets it going, it makes closeouts that much harder. And then that's when you get into your 1-2 dribble pull-up stuff. And then if you're having a day, then it's really tough to stop you. I remember D-Rock being in my ear, bro, so much on some of those days. I owe you a couple of freaking punches for the times that you just lit me up in
It,
practice.
it
And
was
D-Rock
one of
was just
those
in my
things.
ear the whole
I
time.
I didn't understand at the time until then, you're on the first team going against the scout team and somebody's
Right.
torching you, and it's like, all right, he has the
Yeah.
green light and I can't stop him. It's like, great. I'm just gonna hear it from coach all day. But yeah, I mean, it's just scout team, there's no repercussions for shooting. So it's like, okay,
Right.
this guy's a shooter. It's like, perfect. That's all I want to do today is shoot. So, of course, there's going to be days, but for the most part, I don't think that, it was anything too much. I don't think I torched you like I got torched some days in practice.
Ugh, man, you don't even
No,
know the
no,
half of that, bro.
I
You
had
don't
some
even
days.
know.
I had some
See,
days.
because there's a couple of guys that absolutely torched me. Shout out Ross Perini. Absolutely torched me when I was a youngster. We called it the Ross two-step, man. He would get everybody with it. Bro, I'm telling you, like, there's some days that you just got me like it was I didn't even know what to say to the coaching staff because they put me up there as this great defensive player who's gonna get stops, standing on his head. And then you're just there, kind of like a not so fit freshman at the time.
I'm not athletic, and it's like, all right, ISO wing, and I'm like, all right, we'll just shot.
Uh, Shout out
But that's
Nevin Johnson too. He gave me
yeah.
the works a couple of times. Uncle
Imagine
Nev.
imagine how I felt when when you left, and then Mac tried to put me in that top defender spot, and then Marcus came in his red shirt year,
Oh, okay.
running
Let's talk about
ISO,
it.
and
Let's
then
talk about it. What happened?
we're scouting Buddy Hield, and he's like, "All right, Marcus, your buddy." It's like, oh, this is gonna be fun for the next 4 days.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy, bro. Oh man. So your retro freshman year, you finally get to play. Obviously, we moved to the Big East. We have a very successful season, as everyone knows. One of your better games was against Villanova at home. At that time, it was your career high. I think you had 13 points off. Like I think you only missed one shot that game, and maybe missed one free throw. What I loved about that game, though, was finally Coach Zierden, shout out Donald, was able to come to that game. At the time, he was the assistant coach for the Wizards, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
And it was the All-Star break, so he actually got to fly into Omaha. He was there for the whole weekend. I think that was not the first time I met him, but the first time I actually we went out to dinner and got to know him better and all that stuff. Talk about having your best game up to that point in front of your father in the building. He was sitting basically out on the press row. And then I know that you guys had a very funny conversation after that game. If you're willing to share it, by all means, do so.
I think I'll let you share that part because it's not as funny to me. So it was
Okay, well then talk about that game and just playing well in front of him then.
Wait, it was I'm gonna let you tell it because it's funnier for you. That type of thing happened all the time for me, so it's not as funny anymore. But I remember a couple games before being able to, finally, get into the rotation for a few minutes here and there, and my dad was able to come to that one because you said the All-Star break, and you got in the night before. And I remember I asked him if we could go shoot, just in case, to be ready. And we were there till 12:30, 1 a.m., just shooting and talking. And I remember he told me, if you keep working and keep your confidence, something's going to break your way. He said, you don't know when. But I remember, Gibbs early gets 2 fouls, and then you get 2 fouls. And it was like, all right, this is my time, my number's called, and this is, the best team in the Big East. So I have to play my best. And I remember just being all, amped up, obviously, to go in with our home crowd. And I ended up playing, one of my better games that year, but it was just, me having a mindset of, I have to, for us to win, I have to play the best that I can to help us win. So it worked out, but it was pretty interesting that he was able to catch that one that, I happen to play the best at.
It's so crazy because like I think back about those Villanova matchups. That first game we absolutely blitzed them in Philadelphia. You played really well in that game as well. Like we all really did, because their focus was on Doug, and it allowed Ethan to get going super early. I got going early. Everyone came off the bench, contributed, including yourself. Devin even made a couple threes and stuff like that. So and Austin as well. So the second time they have a completely different thing. They're like, okay, well, allow Duck to get his. We're gonna try and shut down everybody else. But then you come out of the woodworks and you put a hurting on them. So it must have felt good to see those shots just falling for you, like you said, like putting in the work, the extra work that nobody sees. Just like Kobe taught you when you were a youngster, right?
Right. No, it was definitely good. Obviously we had heard it since we, shot it so well the first time that it was going to be a completely different game the second time. But being able to go out there and beat them by 20 again really made a statement, I feel like. And it was obviously fun doing it in front of the home fans and in a situation like that.
So what what did Don tell you after you go 4 of 5 from the field and I think 3 of 4 from the free throw line? What did you hear from your father as far as critique is concerned after that game?
The first thing I heard, it had nothing to do with, hey, you played great, congrats on the win. It was, hey, you missed that free throw. You could have had 14. And I said, oh, thank you. I know I missed that one. I said, all right, well, I just wanted to remind you that you went 3 for 4. Like, all right.
Z, he's a coach through and through. He can't turn off the coaching.
Hey, you want to know what's even funny? I mean, it's so, I've heard that story like so many times from him. It makes me laugh because even that DePaul game, I had 30. The first thing he said, he gave me a hug and he goes, it was great to watch, which he never normally said. So I was like, oh, this is, he's going to be great this time. And then he goes,
he's going to be sweet, sentimental.
Yeah. And I go, and I had a comeback that time though. I go, yeah, but I missed. And then I hit a 3. So I actually scored 2 more points than the free throw. And he didn't have anything to say back. I finally got my one in and I was like, yeah, can't say.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Don. The summers that we were living together, you and I, Z, training to play overseas. I remember a couple of times he came down to Omaha, put me through some really good workouts too. And obviously you were in those workouts because you and him, you guys worked out together pretty much your whole lives when you had the chance. That was my first time really working out with like an NBA guy who knew what he was talking about and all that stuff. So it was just such a neat experience. So shout out to Don, a cool guy, even though he doesn't have any sympathy for Isaiah Zierden's playing ability.
You heard us go at it during the workout.
Yeah.
It's just been so long, just going head to head, just hearing this.
It was so crazy, like when I watch you guys go back and forth when we're working out and stuff like that. And I'm just like, damn, he's talking to his dad like that. And then I realized, oh no, he's talking to his coach like that. Because like I said, I've gone out to dinners. I've had so many conversations with you guys off the court. You guys are literally like best friends. But like the second you get in between those 4 lines, that relationship dynamic changes
so much. One of the toughest things for me growing up is like who is dad the dad and then who's dad the coach, and trying to separate both of them. But then, obviously we're there for the workouts, just, MFs everywhere, FU, get the
Yeah.
out, don't care, whatever you say. And
Yeah,
then
get the F out
obviously
of here.
afterwards,
You're effing trash. I heard
yeah,
all
I
I
mean,
heard all
it's
this.
back and forth, and it's all right, shut up, don't care. But then
Yeah.
afterwards, it's just all, we're best buds. We golf every day. It's just, I respect my parents. Obviously, I love them, and I'd never talk to them that way. But once he's a coach, then it's different. So
Right. So later on that year, like I said, the team kept playing well. You suffered your first major injury, unfortunately, of many as a collegiate athlete. Again, Xavier, chasing down, why am I blanking on his name right now? Samaj Christian, and your knee, kind of takes a turn for the worse. Kind of, if you want to, if you don't want to, then we don't need to talk about it. But just kind of tell me what was your feelings going through your mind, like understanding that your season up to that point was probably over.
well, I mean, obviously, we had all week when we were preparing for him, it was don't let him go right, because he can only go
Mhm.
right, which that's all he ever did. So we knew what he was going to do, and in transition, he's got a full head of steam, and I just slid over, and the way that he kind of hit me as I was sliding, it was awkward. So my foot kind
Mhm.
of ended up like my legs stepped back instead of just falling, and when I felt it, I knew that my season was done. It was just a matter of how much damage was actually done. And I got carried off the court, but then I walked the entire, how long Xavier's walk to the locker room and training room is. So I walked the entire way to the training room under my own, on my own. So it was, one of those things, I didn't know how bad it actually was.
Mhm.
And it was kind of unfortunate again, because we were playing Georgetown in the next couple of days, and I'd be able to see my dad again. So, but I guess it was
Right.
good in that sense too, because he was able to be there, and their training staff was able to help me get an MRI and take care of me that way.
Yeah. I remember I was on the bench when it happened, bro, and I couldn't even look. Like I literally turned around as I saw Ben walk over. I saw Coach Mac, obviously help you to your feet, give you a hug.
Hmm.
And then I just saw you kind of slowly make your way to, the back area where the locker rooms are and stuff. Right. I was hurt, bro. Like,
It was it was one
it
of
was
those,
tough. It was tough. We had a really
yeah,
good team, and you were a really big part of it. And that feeling, that eerie feeling, was just it was there.
yeah, it was. Obviously, when anything bad happens, and any injury, you can just feel it. And I remember just laying there as I knew that something bad had happened, and I hadn't looked yet, but I heard the Xavier fans in the first row go, "Oh my God." And I was like, all right, well, this is going to be pretty bad when I look at it. So I
Yeah.
remember just sitting up and having Doc Ramos and Ben and Mac and their orthopedic guy come over, and just seeing it out of place. And I was like, all right, yeah, this is pretty bad.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I'm glad at least you got the recovery that you needed. You were able to play that following season. You guys actually got off to a pretty good start. You were ranked in the top 25 following, beating Buddy Hield. It's such a weird year because throughout that whole year, you guys weren't successful, but you got off to a really good start and just weren't able to carry that momentum. So talk about, that game in particular, which was like a comeback for the ages. I remember, I think I was in Cyprus and I stayed up to watch it. And I was just losing my mind because you guys were down like 18 at one point and just started roaring back, and the crowd got really into it. Talk about that game, and was that one of those like memorable games for you? And if not, what are some of your favorite games that you had in your career?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of them. Obviously, the one
Mhm.
we talked about, Villanova at Nova, the freshman year, just
Mhm.
the way we shot will always be up there. But that one in particular, just because all you guys left, and it was okay. Creighton's gonna suck. They don't have anybody, and then we face a top 20 team at the time. So it was like, all right, this is a big challenge for us. Buddy, one of the top kids in, junior class, and I had the responsibility of having to chase them. And it was just one of those games where it didn't seem like it was 20 when it was 20. Like, we knew we weren't playing well, but it just never felt like it really was 20. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. Just that feeling. It doesn't feel like what it actually is. So at halftime, we knew if we could just get a little momentum going offensively, that we would create some stops and be able to run on them, because they weren't great transition defense. And just that was, for me personally, that was the loudest I've ever heard the CenturyLink coming back from that deficit, and being able to hit that three in front of the bench, and the picture with Mac, holding the threes up, and the fan. It was just one of the things. Yeah, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. It was the loudest I've ever heard in the arena. So it's definitely my number one memory.
Later on that year, you partially tear your MCL, which takes you out of, competition once again. You come back from that injury, you play really well in your junior year, and then it's a shoulder issue when you were having one of your better statistical years. That team went to the NIT, you weren't able to participate in that NIT run. Talk about kind of like the frustrations of just year after year dealing with injuries. On this year's team, Marcus Zagorowski was kind of like that, where early on he just had a couple like ticky-tack injuries, which built and built. Last year they won the regular season, or a share of the regular season Big East championship, but in that final game, before going to the Big East tournament, which obviously got canceled due to COVID and all that stuff, Marcus came up limping, and had a whole season or off season where you have to recover from injury. So just kind of talk about like the frustrations that come with just always being injured and not being able to, cross the finish line at the end of the season, so to speak.
Man, it's one of those things that, from the outside looking in, from a fan's perspective, it's like, this kid just can't stay healthy. We need somebody, who can. And it's mentally, it can just break you down. Because it's not, I'm not out there like, hey, I'm hoping to get hurt before the season ends. It's just one of those things that happens. But it was the way that every time, no matter what it was, every time I had to go in there and talk to Mac, the support that he gave me, and obviously you guys who were teammates and some of my closest friends, the support you guys gave me made it a lot easier. It's not as bad mentally trying to get through every injury when you have people there supporting you. So I know, I'm sure for Marcus it was the same way. Every little thing, it's like, why can't I just play healthy? I'm trying, everything I'm trying to do to take care of my body just isn't working, and it can be frustrating. So for any of the fans that see kids get injured and are like, we need somebody else who doesn't get injured as much, we're tired of that. It's it's just kind of how it goes. You can't hate the kid for it. It just nothing you can do. Sports has injuries, and sometimes they stack up.
So you battled through all of that. You have a senior year on a really, really good team. That team, your senior year, was one of my favorite teams to watch as a fan. Personally, you guys got up and down. Obviously he had great talent there with, Maurice Watson as your point guard, Marcus Foster, Kyrie. He had JP there too. Cole was on that team, if I'm not mistaken. My guy, Cole. It was your senior year. It was Zach's senior year. Yeah. And like, it was just such an exciting team to watch. But you are asked to come off the bench, which is, must have been such a tough sacrifice, because you had started the 2 previous years. You were just coming off your best statistical year before the injury. Kind of talk about, the sacrifice that it takes if you really want to be a team player, if you really want to, watch your team have success. Talk about the sacrifice as a senior, where you want to go out on a high note, obviously with the team, but individually, and then being asked to come off the bench and provide a spark. That was a little bit different than what you were used to the 2 previous years.
It was almost a reverting back to freshman year, so to speak, to have to come off
Mhm.
the bench. But it wasn't for me. Obviously, there's frustration behind, okay, I just played my best year and now I have to come off the bench again. But it wasn't like I was like upset about it. It was like, all right, this is what is best for the team. So I'm gonna, think about it and use it as motivation so that every time I do come off the bench, I can help the team and I'll take it out on the opponent.
Right.
At the end of the day, it wasn't much to, talk to Mac about. It was what he said, and I'm not going to argue with the decision. So I
Mhm.
just try to accept the role that you're given. It's not always what you're thinking, but at the end of the day, everyone had the same mentality, and it was, end goal, and it was to win. I didn't care, play 4 minutes and shoot 2 threes, and we get a win. I'm fine with that as long as we win at the end of the day. That's all that I cared about.
Right. That team made it to Big East tournament finals, ended up losing to Villanova, if I'm not mistaken, and then losing to Rhode Island in the first round of the NCAA tournament, which was the last game of your career.
Mhm.
After that final buzzer sounded against Rhode Island, talk to me about like your emotions, understanding that that journey, that chapter in your life came to an end abruptly, obviously in a situation that you guys felt like you could have advanced.
It was tough. I remember immediately after, um, I was more upset with how I played. I didn't get to play a whole lot, but I was more upset with the minutes that I did have. I'm pretty sure I had like 2 turnovers, was like 0 for 3, and it just wasn't a good game.
Mhm.
And I was more upset at that without really realizing that it was done at the time. But later after the press conference and everything kind of calmed down, you start to sit there and think like, this is, I'm done hanging out with these guys in the locker room for an hour after practice, and
Mhm.
laughing about dumb stuff that happened during
About God knows what.
right, like anything. And the more that it went on after the loss, the more it kind of set in like, damn, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. Because obviously any loss is, you're upset and tough to take, but it's you know it's the end, so it's always more
Yeah.
difficult.
It's so crazy. Like I'm looking at my background right here. Where is it? On this side, my last game.
Yeah, I
My
mean
last
it's
game against Baylor, like it just you talking about that, it just brought back all those, feelings of it's kind of a vulnerable time because you identify yourself for so long as this college basketball player, and then it's just like that, it's over. And I remember me, you, and Mo, shout out Mogbu, my guy, our guy,
okay.
in the locker room. We literally had like a little conference, just the three of us, literally hugging each other and like talking about how like this part of the journey was done. And I remember like not believing it and like
Mhm.
thinking like I'm about to snap out of this like nightmare that I'm in currently. But like it really like affects you. Like
No,
we went
I
back
don't.
to
Yeah, I
the
don't
lock.
think. I don't think people, and even freshmen that do play, that we would try to tell this to, they wouldn't believe us anyway. It's something that you have to experience. It goes from every day 2.5 hour practices, lifts and classes, to all of a sudden it's done. There's no more lifts, no more
Yeah.
practices. You still have to go to class if you want, but it's just, you're no longer a basketball player, and you just turn into another college student, and it doesn't really register for a minute with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. I remember going back to the hotel and then watching like the coaches' kids at that time. They were like 10, 11, 12 years old, all of them crying, like hugging me, hugging Doug, hugging Ethan, hugging Grant, understanding that this was the last time they were going to see us play. And fast forward now, shout out to Andrew Murfeld. He's on the team now. Shout out to Tucker DeVries. He just decided to go play at Drake under Coach DeVries too. So it's like you see like those kids who were
Yeah.
literally bawling their eyes out. Now they're literally bawling on the court. So that's awesome to see. You had a short stint at a pro career. You played in Portugal overseas 1 year. That was the summers where you and I were trying not to get ourselves in trouble, but we decided to live together and train together and live together. I remember our summer regiment was working up at like 6 a.m., getting a lift in, getting all of our shots in the morning, and then going to Hoffman Hoops Academy. Shout out to Coach Hoffman. And getting some individual skill work done there. And then obviously when your father was in town, we get some work done with him too. Talk about like your playing career, some of the stuff that you learned, and then obviously like just the grind of being an overseas pro hooper, and in your situation, not the best one, not the not the glamour that some people think that playing overseas looks like.
Right. No, the summer was
impeccable.
I'm done. But it was it was a learning process over the summer, and really it did like getting up early like that and doing shooting, lifting, and then another workout really did help me for when I got overseas. That year was obviously nothing that anyone expects. It's one of those horror stories that you hear about but don't believe of overseas basketball. Every 2 practices every day, and it was just the living conditions were terrible. The gym was awful. It was one of those things that you'll take away. Like I love playing basketball, but if that's what I had to play basketball in every day, there's no shot.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather just stay at home. And I love the game. So it was definitely a great experience being able to say I got to play professionally overseas, but the body finally said, hey, this isn't the right situation, and I want to be able to do stuff later in life like golf and hang out. And so I just knew that the time was finally there to call it.
So you decided to hang up the sneakers, but not basketball necessarily. You're back to coaching, just like your father is a coach. You're now a coach. So you're basically the Coach Zierdan 2.0 version. What are some of the things that you're doing differently than, Don did? Or, what are some of the things that he's taught you, obviously from being a coach, basically your entire lifetime, that you apply to your coaching right now?
It was that was the first thing I thought about is, oh man, now I'm following in his footsteps. Now I'm going to end up being
right.
And I don't want to do that. But so I had the opportunity to go back to my old high school, and that was what I thought at the time, and I still do. I think that was the best choice, being able to go back and help kids that want to play at a college level or just playing for the year, just to see the difference in mentality compared to what we always had at Creighton. That's all you see is the mentality of every single day, and just to kind of coach and see what other kids think and how they want to work, and trying to help some kids reach their goals of maybe playing college was what I wanted to do. But I try not to yell or nag kids about missing a single free throw if they have 30 points or anything like that. So I'm trying to be a little more laid back than my dad was.
Nice. Zierdan 2.0 is supposed to be the better version. So obviously we're all wishing that it works out for you. I know Blue Jay Nation wants to hear all of that, are gonna look you up and start supporting you even more, because it is an honorable thing to do. Like you said, going back to your old high school, those kids are literally walking in the footsteps that you walked in previously. So your insight is certainly going to help them in the future.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's definitely, the only bad thing is I can definitely tell that I have some of my dad's coaching in me, because I'm pretty sure I called 3 timeouts all year. 2 of them have just been to absolutely the entire minute just rip the kids. and I had to turn my back to the parents and, just have to be quiet because it's dead silent in the gym. And so that's always the other coach. We always joke about how I've called 3 timeouts all year and 66% of them are me just chewing the kids out. But it's how it goes, I guess. I don't know.
Sometimes it needs to be done. I've been on the bad end of getting chewed out too many times in my career to count. So
yeah,
it's all good. It'll make the kids better. They need to be tougher anyways. So it's all good.
It'll make them tough.
Oh man, is there any last words that you?
It was honestly, I said it during my senior speech. It was a blessing and an honor for me to be able to play in front of 17,000 every night, and I appreciate them through all my ups and downs, still, staying with me, and forever grateful and thankful for the opportunity.
Thank you, Isaiah Zierden, for stepping into the J with me once again. Lord knows we've had our moments, but once again,
let's not put it that way. I'm on the podcast. I'm not back in the J. I don't want to go.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're right here.
No, I don't want to relive some of those.
You're right here. I appreciate you, bro. Make sure to follow, and subscribe to the Field of 68 Media Network. And don't forget to download that Locker Room app for pre and post game commentary, where you get to actually chime in, request to speak, type in questions, and the host could literally address them live. Isaiah Ziggy Zierden, Coach Zierden 2.0. What other nicknames have I had for you over the years? It's too many to count. We still have our handshake every time I see you. I hope I get to catch up with you this summer, bro. We got to golf. My golf game is up there now. What up? You already know what it is. Tommy Anderson, if you're listening, you're gonna have to join that. That's our little golfing group right there. So yeah, appreciate you, Z. Obviously stay safe. It's such a crazy time out here in these streets, so stay safe. And maybe you'll get back on the podcast. We need to do a second version of this because there's so many stories that we could still be telling right now.
I don't know if the fans want that, but if whatever the people want,
they will.
We are.
They will.
What? So to speak, our job.
Yeah, we give the people what they want. That's absolutely
what we
do. I know for sure that we're gonna have to do one with me, you, and Avery, because a lot of people have been asking for more Avery content to see what's so candid that first time around. So we're definitely gonna have to figure that part out. But once again, thank you, Z. Love you, bro. Appreciate you. We'll talk soon, and as always, stay safe and go Jays.
I love you.